Baruch Hashem, my teacher, the Chama Basara, came home. She came up from the hospital for Shabbos, Baruch Hashem. She should have the Rechazor for it. He's looking to use the Tfilis, the Chama Basara. Okay, we're up to Lamed Hey on the base.
Rabbi, I think the first name on your list also, Menachem Dov Ben Freda.
Yeah.
He also came home.
What?
The first name on your list, Menachem Dov Ben Freda.
Yeah.
Also came home from the hospital.
Baruch Hashem.
Yeah. You can come off the list.
I also have another name you can remove from the list. I just put it on the chat.
Who?
Malka Rezel Bas Devar Gittel can be removed from the chat.
Malka Rezel we can remove?
Yeah.
Okay. Got a dinner of a pen. Hesh. Malka Rezel.
Bas Devar Gittel.
And Nachum Dov and Freda. Okay, good. Hesh. Okay, so we saw yesterday the Shita of Reb Meir, that he happened to be Machmir. He happened to be Machmir. We said Stam, you go with the Rabbanon, he was Mako, and he was Mako by and his Machmir by Tchumim because it was the Raisa. Okay, it was Machmir by Tchumim the Raisa. Says the Gemara. So it comes when it's the Raisa, Reb Meir is Machmir. In a suffix the Raisa is Machmir. So we're up to Lamed Hey Amid Beis, about 8-10 lines up. V'rami the Raisa ad the Raisa Reb Meir. We're going to ask the Raisa on Reb Meir. The Reb Meir holds that by what? Reb Meir holds the Raisa we were Machmir, and now we're going to be Meko. It's none. Nogo be'achad b'layla. You touch somebody at night. You're not uncertain whether the person is dead or alive. And in the morning you wake up, and you find him dead. So it's a suffix whether you touch the dead person or a live person. It says Reb Meir mitaher. Reb Meir says yitahar. There's your stira. Reb Meir said by a suffix deraisa we were machmir, and we said that by tchumim, and we said it's not a good eruv. And here we're saying that what that it is tar the chachamim b'tamayim. So you see by it, and now this is the chayyid tumas meis is deraisa, and we see when it comes to a deraisa, he's being megal. So kosher to Eruvin where he's being machmir, a stira Reb Meir to Reb Meir. Okay, excuse me. The chachamim b'tamayim. Okay, shekol tameis kishas mitziasan. All the tameis go to the time you found them. So since you find the person dead, we'll say he was dead when he touched him. Amr of Yomi, Mishnah Seinu, our Mishnah speaking, it wasn't a suffix, but Shahoya Allah Sheretz Kol Ben Hashmashas. There was a Sheretz Kol Ben Hashmashas. In other words, Ein Achinami, he is makel by Sveikas, where you have a Chazaka, right? A Chazaka, the person was alive. And over here was Chazaka that I guess the Truma was good. So here, why we're Machmir? Because it wasn't a suffix. We're Machmir because there was a Sheretz all Ben Hashmashas. On top of the what? On top of the truma. Since there was a sheretz, there's no chazaka. By over here, there was chazaka. The person was alive. You left him alive. Over there, there's no chazaka, and therefore what? And therefore it is tamei because there was a sheretz on top of ben hashmashos. If you're telling me there was a sheretz on top of it all ben hashmashos, the whole lamer Reb Yossi suffix Eruvin kasha. Why in the world would Reb Yossi hold in that case that it's kasha? If there was on top of it a sheretz pashtus, you have every reason to be metameh, not to say it's tahar. Right? Says Rashi, "B'hol lema havadei mi b'yoyim mitma." Vadai, it was tameh. It was masnisa k'tanim b'yoyim. Ein Eruvin de'riakol. Okay, I think I read your Rashi, but I'm not up to yet. Says the Gemara. Okay, Yachi b'hol lema Rabbi Yossi suffix Eruvin kasha. No, Rabbi Yossi demar travayu. You got two groups of Eidim. One says that it was Tomei ben Hashmashos. It was on, excuse me, Tomei, it was on me by Yoim. So let's see Rashi. We have to see Rashi over here. Achas emeres mi by Yoim, ubaha pligi. So again, guys, let's get it straight. It's speaking a case you had Truma, you had a sheretz on top of it. In that case, Reb Meir says it's tamei, and therefore it's not an eruv. And Reb Yossi says it's good. What's the for Reb Yossi to say it's good? Because we're going to throw in another factor. there were two Adam over here, two groups of Adam, four people. And what did they say? Uki, one said it was on me, but Yomi, one says it wasn't. So now, Uki tray lebahade tray. You take one set against the other. You offset them. They neutralize each other. For Uki truma achazaka kamaisa. And you put the truma on its previous chazaka. The chi ancha, and when you left the truma, tahira have. When you left the truma, guys, it was tahar. When you left the truma, it was tahar. Therefore, says Rabbi Yosi, in that scenario where you have one aid against another aid, they neutralize, they cancel each other out, and you have the chazaka that the truma was in a state of tahira when you left it, and using the din of chazaka to mimvara the suffix, will say it's tahar. That's Rabbi Yosi. That's Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Meir says it's tamei. What's the svara of Rabbi Meir? Continues Rashi. For Rabbi Meir savar kivan the ikka kat the mafka le mechazake, right? Right. Since there's one kat that said it was tamei, there's a kat that says there was on top of it that there was something that was the sheretz on top of it, right? In that case, Besveika deraisa lo yaslina basa chazaka. Reb Meir is machmir that even one aid, even though you have another aid to neutralize that one aid, but that one aid could weaken the chazaka, and that one aid said there was a sheretz on top of the truma, that takes off its chazaka of tyra. You have what an aid connected it. It doesn't make a difference. If since I have one that weakens the chazaka, it's enough, and therefore Reb Meir says in that scenario it will be tamei. That's our Mishnah. That's our Mishnah or the Brisa. Avol b'noigeya be'echa b'layla, when you touch a person at night, the ein kat mitziyasim echeskasai. No one's being. You don't have a group of Edom here. No one's being mitzi. Or you have the chazaka that he was alive, and there's nothing to weaken that chazaka. The Mela says it's tahar. Mukmina lo kol alayla b'cheskasai. Ubasa mitziyasim le'aslina. Diklanema hashtu the mice. Says that. Okay, very good. Outside. Kasha teretz. We Mishnah yesterday. We said that like Reb Meir, in a suffix arises whether it was tamei ben ishmashos or not. It's not an eruv. Tamei, not an eruv. It's tamei. Here we have a suffix whether what you touch the person or not, right? Tahar. That's the difference. Both the raisa dikadinim, because we said Reb Meir holds chum's the raisa. We said yesterday, right? Both the raisa dikadinim. One Reb Meir is saying that it's tamei. One saying it's tahar. For the Gemara, you have a sheretz on it. For the Gemara, you have a sheretz on it. For the Gemara, there's sheretz on it. So what was Rabbi Yoshi's for it to go ahead and matar it? And for the Gemara, you have a machloikis. How do you view these Eidim? Says Rabbi Yosi, you view the Eidim the following: they cancel each other out, as if it's not there. If there's no there, the only way you can be mavar the suffix is based on chazaka. The chazaka is when you left the truma, it was tahar. Remela says Rabbi Yosi, it's tahar. Says Rabbi Meir, no. I have one aid that weakens the chazaka. I have one aid that weakens the chazaka. I have one aid saying there was a sheretz on it, that weakens the chazaka. No longer is it becheskes taira. That's enough with the raisa to be machmir, and thus in our Mishnah is machmir. By touching the mace over here, it's the raisa is tahar. There's nothing to weaken the chazaka that the guy was alive when he went to sleep. There's no aid. There's nothing. There's a guy touched him when you touched him. You left him alive. You touched him. You woke up. He was dead. Right? The chazaka we left him in is life. The Bela said, that's tahar. And therefore, that would be the difference between the two cases. That's one way to answer the stira. A second way to answer the stira, Lamed Vav Amid Aleph. Rava Ama Hasam Trei Chaske Lakula, V'Hacha Chada Chazaka Lakula. Says Rashi. Rava Amar. Gabi Naga Be'echad Nami, Afilu Yeshnei Kitei Edim, Chaluka Achas Eimeres, Koidim Shinaga B'Meis, V'Achas Eimeres Achsha Meis. Even if you have two Edim that weaken each other, Havinami Reb Meir Metaher. Reb Meir would still say it's tahar. But Filu Hachi like Tikshi and still is not shver. It's not shver. Why? Hasam by the truma Trei Chaskeninu Letaher. There's two reasons by the mace to be metaher. One, Umishum Hachi Aslina Lakula. What's the two reasons? The Uki Trei Lebahade Trei. You go ahead. You got two Edom. One says he was dead. One says he was alive. You go ahead, take him, they cancel each other out. The Hemid Mesal Cheskaso Rishona Kalalayla, and you go ahead and keep the mace on his established chazaka, which was life. V'chayhu. That's one reason. V'oid Hemid Noigeya Al Cheskasoi Rishona V'tahu. And what about the person who touched him? He was tahar. So you got two chazakas. The mace was alive, and this guy was tahar. But in our Mishnah, where it's a suffix, whether it was tummy or not, okay, so this teretz wants to say it can be speaking where you have edus in both scenarios, and nonetheless, there's more of a svara to go ahead and say it's tahar in the scenario when you touched, when in the scenario of our Mishnah. What's the svara? In our Mishnah, you have one chazaka. You have one chazaka that it was tahar, but you have an aid that weakens the chazaka. Over here, I have two chazakas. One, the guy was alive, and two, the person who touched him was tahar. So even if you're going to go ahead and say it's weakened, the chazaka of life, because the guy's machlokas whether he was dead or alive, you still have another chazaka to rely upon. The chazaka that the guy was tahar. But She'enkin in our Mishnah, there was only one chazaka, and that one chazaka was destroyed by the Eidim. And therefore, what? That's the difference between the two. So we have two terutzim, right? We have two ways to go ahead and answer the stira in Reb Meir. The first way we said that is speaking. The first case is speaking with. We have Eidus over here that weaken each other. One Eidus going ahead weaken the chazaka. Reb Meir will be machmir, but that's in our Mishnah. The case of touching, there's no Eidim. Rabbi says a bigger chiddush. Even if both cases has Eidim, you're still going to be making one and machmir in the other. You're going to be machmir in our Mishnah because there's only one chazaka. You're going to be making by the case of touching the dead body because there's two chazaka. Beautiful svara. He gives nice svaras in chazaka, ways of being mevaru what? Being mevaru a suffix. Okay, one. Now, we have another kasha, guys. Kasha de Rabbi Yossi ad Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi said in our Mishnah, in the scenario, fellas, where it was what? Where you don't know whether it was truma was tamei or tahar. He argued on Rabbi Meir and he said sveikei tahar. Sveikei tahar, good. That's a given. That's a Mishnah. So before the Mishnah, that's what he said. Look back at Lamed Hey and Aleph. Seems like a decade ago, right? It was like only last night. Right? We have Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon, Imrim, Safik, Eruvin, Kasha. You see where it says the word Gemara, Gimel Mem. Black letters, Gimel Mem, go up 3 lines. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon, Imrim, Safik, Eruvin, Kasha. Rabbi Yosef, Avtulmis, Heid, Mishum Chamisha, Zakenim, Al Safik, Eruvin, Shakasha. Rabbi Yosef brings the name of Avtulmis, who said that 5 Zakenim said Safik, Eruvin, Kasha. Okay? So you have Safik, Eruvin, Kasha. Now, look back. We have a brisa yesterday that I read through very, very quickly. Right? The brisa said yesterday, and what does it say in the brisa? Smack in the middle of the page, guys. The first word underlined is Yossi. Maybe it's 1 or 2 lines, on the other side of the 50. So Rabbi Yossi mitame. Rabbi Yossi says it's tamei. This is the Rabbanon. He says it's tamei. So Fred the Gemara now kasha the Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yossi back by Yoslam Mevav and Aleph. Second line down, kasha the Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi in our Mishnah says the suffix is what? Is tar. And over here, Rabbi Yossi says the suffix is tamei. Tum is different than Erev. By Tumah, what I'm worried about is the following. If I'm going to be makel by Tumah de Rabbanon, meaning, let's say you were tamei al yedei food. I told you, no food can be mitama adam. Only an avat Tumah can be mitama adam. If I'm going to be makel by food and say, suffix, when I went to the mikvah, suffix, I didn't go to the mikvah for truma, for tumah kala, I may come to do the same thing by tumah chamura, and that you can't, and that would not be good. If you're a tamei machmas and abba tumah, and I'm suffix whether I had a good tefillah, says Rabbi Yossi, suffix the rice, I'm going to be machmir. Good, but the rabbanon I'll be makel. He says no, since there is something to be worried about that you may come to go ahead and be toivel by the Raisa, he's machmir by the Rabbanon. That's by what? Mashenkin by Erev, where there's nothing to worry about by the suffix. Since it's a suffix the Rabbanon, he says it is a good Erev. That's the teretz of Rav Huna. Rav Huna, b'chidin ha'shani tuma hoyel v'yesh le'ikim en ha'Torah. Fred the Gemara Shabbos nami the Raisa. right? By Shabbos also, Tchumim is the Raisa, so you can come to the Raisa de Kedin. And for the Gemara, Ksav Rabbi Yehuda, Tchumim the Rabbanon. He holds Tchumim the Rabbanon, Machloikis Tanoim, he holds the Rabbanon. V'Iba Yisema, another way to answer Rabbi Yossi, Hadidei, the Brisa that said it's Tameh, it goes according to him. And our Mishnah that says it's Tahar is the Rabbi. He's saying in the name of his Rebbe. They can nami that he said in the name of the Rebbe, Diktani, as we just saw, Amar Rabbi Yossi, Avtul Misheid Mishum Chamisha Sekenim, Shesafik Eruv Kasha Shmamina. He's testifying what 5 Sekenim said. But he doesn't hold like that. He doesn't hold like that. He holds like the Brisa that we saw in the Yomi base. He holds what it is. It's Tameh. So two terutzim. One, the Raisa versus the Rabbanon. By the Raisa, the Rabbanon that may come to the Raisa, a Tumah, Chamura, Kala that may come to Chamura, he's worried about. Eruvin is not worried about. That's one teretz. A second teretz is no. Eruvin also would hold it's Tameh. The Mishnah says it's Tahar. He's just reciting his Rebbe Shita, not his own Shita. So very, very gishmak. Rava Amar, Chasam Hainu Taimah de Rabbi Yossi. Here's a third reason for Rabbi Yossi. Chasam Hainu Taimah de Rabbi Yossi. Hemit Tomei al Cheskaso. I'll be Maimel al the Tomei on his Chazaka. The Eima loy Taval. And I'll say, guys, it's a suffix whether he had a good tefillah or not. His Chazaka that he was in a state of Tumah. His Chazaka was he was in a state of Tumah. Right? However, so therefore I'll say he's Tameh. Masha'en Kainin by Eruvin, there's no Chazaka of Tumah. Says the Rabbi, Hemid Mikval Cheskaso, the Emeloi Chasa. What was your suffix? One of the stakes was we had a good mikvah. Says the Gemara, let's be minded the mikvah where it was a good mikvah. And for the Gemara, the mikvah shlein now. It's speaking about a mikvah that you didn't measure. Since you didn't measure, you never had to establish Chazaka that it was a good mikvah. You assume it was a good mikvah, but it was since it was never measured, you don't know for sure it was a good mikvah. Tanya, Ketzan Rabbi Yossi, when does Rabbi Yossi say Safik Eruvay Kasha? When does Rabbi Yossi say that a Safik Eruv is Kasha? For here's the following case. Eruv Bitruma. Now, you had kosher truma, you had Tardik truma, Safik Mibi Yom Nitmas, and now it became Tami. And it's suffix whether it came Tameh on a Friday, or it became Tameh what? On when it got dark, or when it got dark. V'chein peiros suffix midbayoim niskanu. Peiros whether they were mufresh, they were not tevel, they were hufresh, the trumas and maisa when it was still daytime, and then it's a good erev. Suffix b'chashachshecha niskanu. Zeu suffix erev kasha. So this the Gemara is going to ask, fellas. 1 second. If you go after the chazaka, this should be a chazaka that it was not upkashet. It wasn't right. No, bishlema when the truma was tahar, the chazaka was its tahar. Over here, the chazaka is its tameh, not tameh. It's not upkashet. It's still tevel. We didn't say that. We didn't say that. We said as a suffix at which point in time it became tameh. It's not a suffix benish mashas. It's a suffix during the day or a suffix at night. That's what we said. We didn't say the suffix in the day. Okay. Now the shaila is over here. That case. So we're going to ask on this case in a second. So this is the suffix when the Bryce is elaborated in the Mishnah. When the Mishnah said Rabbi Yossi says a case of suffix kasha is a suffix whether it was day or night. Or a suffix, but it's certainly tameh. It was tahar at one point in time and it became tameh, and now it's upkashet suffix whether it was upkashet before or after. That's the shaila. But you have a status of either tahar dikatruma or a state of tithe produce. Avol erev bitruma suffix tahar suffix tameya. If you have produce and you're mesupik, whether it was tameh or not. Became Paris, suffix, nitakum, suffix, lainus ganu, Paris, where you're not sure whether they were tied or not. Ain't there suffix a Erev kosher? That's not. Why? Because then you never know if you had a good Erev. In other words, it could be you didn't have an Erev in the first place. It could be that. It could be that it was Tameh. It could be that what? That it was. It could be that it was not upkashet. In other words, in the first case, you knew for sure that there was a time when it was good. There was a time it was good. Whether it was good at the right time, I'm a suffix. That's the suffix. At which point in time did it become no good? it could have been good. Over here, Ken Zayin, it was never good in the first place because maybe the truma from the outset was tamei. Maybe the parents from the outset weren't oikashake. So therefore, this suffix Rabbi Yossi would say is not kosher. Rabbi Yossi would say what is not kosher in this scenario. Now, going back to the scenario when it's kosher, we said it's a suffix when what? At which point in time it became tamei. Suffix at which point in time you took up the when you were attacking it, when you took up the teva. And we said in both cases it works. Fred the Gemara, 1 second. My shna truma the amar hemit truma cheskasa the emet tahoirihi. The reason why when you're mesupik, at which point in time it became tamei, the reason it works was we say keep truma on its chazaka. Peris nami, the Peris as well. Hemit tevel cheskaso ve'ema loine taknu, and say that what? That you didn't go ahead and take off. You didn't take it off. You just told me two guys. We said two cases. In the latter case, it doesn't work. Good, that's out of the way. The first case where it does work, we said in both cases, it's a good Eruv. Why are the both cases? I have Truma. I don't know which point in time it became Tameh. I have produce. I don't know at which point in time it was Taif, that you separated Truma and Maisa. In both cases, it's good. Fred the Gemara, I don't understand why that is. Bishleim in the first case, the reason it's good is because Truma Tahira can be used to make an Erev. And my shaila is, when it became what? Tameh, keep it on its chazaka that it was tahar. Now let's go. On Taif produce, tevel, yeah? The chazaka is that you can't use it as an Erev. So why do you say if you're mesupik, it's a good Erev? It should be a good Erev. Because the chazaka says it's not a good Erev. Let's see what the Gemara says. The Gemara is going to switch gears. Says the Gemara. Loi tema, do not read the Brisa as Safik mibo yom nitaknu, that Safik mibo yom you were mitaking it. Don't read it that way. Ela ema Safik mibo yom nidma'u. Safik mibo yom, it got mixed. In other words, you had produce, truma, and tevel fell inside. If it's tevel, now a kohen can even eat it. So dimua, it means mixed. Guys, usually dimua means chulin and truma. Over here it means truma and tevel. The Rashi says. Therefore, and Tosfos agrees. Nira kipir shakunchis baloshin sheni shenimu tevel bechulin. That tevel got mixed with chulin, not truma. Excuse me. V'loikistam dimua shebashas, where it's truma and chulin. Here it's tevel and chulin. So again, so what happened? You got tevel that fell into chulin, and the suffix is, did it fall in before or fall in afterwards? Right? So again, you had chulin. Okay. So the chazaka were guys. The chazaka was chulin. What happened? It was chulin. It did, and now what fell in? What fell in is tevel. So what's the tevel going to do? It's going to make you not be able to eat it. It's not a tumah tikashayla. It's a tevel tikashayla. At which point in time did the tevel come into ruin it? But the chazaka of chulin stays, just like the chazaka of truma stays. The chazaka of chulin stays, and the mela, therefore, that Rabbi Yossi would say is kosher. Okay, so let's see what we got. Let's chazariba what we got into this point in time. We had a stira in Reb Meir. We had a stira Reb Meir in Mishnayos. In our Mishnah says that it's tamei. In the Brisa says it's tahar. We answered up. We answered up that the case is speaking where there's tumah on top of the sheretz on top of it, and therefore, since there's a sheretz on top of it in the Mishnah, that's why I said it's tamei. Mashenkin, in our case, there was no, someone touched, he had a steer from somebody touched somebody, and therefore, Reb Meir said the chazaka of Tyrus is, since he had two edim that said that there was sheretz was on there, bein hashmashos, then that weakens the chazaka according to Reb Meir, and in our Mishnah it's tamei. Mashenkin in the where you touch something, right? Therefore, it would be what where you touch somebody in the night. He says you are tahar because again you have no edim to weaken. Rabbi says even if you do have edim to weaken, you have two reasons to go ahead and say he's tahar. One, the person was alive. The edis weakens that. You have a chazaka that when he touched it, he was tahar. Therefore, that's the reason why we had to be mekel. And then we had a stira in Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yosi in the Mishnah says kasha, and here in the Brisa says tamei. So of that we had 3 terutzim. One teretz that is we're more machmir by tumah, because we don't want to go ahead and have a person make a mistake by tumah daraisa, tumah chamura. We have a second that one pshat that says it was his Rebbe. He's machmir, but his Rebbe is. And now we're saying another reason that the chazaka, you might be you have a chazaka of that it was not hemid tamei al cheskaso, and we'll say that he didn't go to the mikvah. Mashenkin over here where there's no chazaka, right, where it was tovel or not. Therefore, what? There's no chazaka. Therefore, he said it's in our Mishnah. In our Mishnah, there was no chazaka of tumah. Mashenkin over here in the Brisa where he was tamei, so therefore we'll say he didn't go to the mikvah. Either the chazaka of the mikvah, saying no, that it wasn't measured, and that's what we did so far. And then we have the Rabbi Yosi, the case he's naksha, when the possibility existed was either tahar, or the possibility exists that it was up geshed, it was a tithe. Mashenkin, if it's a suffix whether it was good in the first place or not, was a suffix whether it was tithe or not. In that case, he would say that the sfeika it's not a good erev. Okay, a few shilas now. A few shilas. Boy Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak me Rav Huna. Ha'ilafon of shtei kikrois. You have 2 kikrois, you have 2 loaves of bread. Okay? And you want to go ahead, and they're both of truma. Achas tameya, which you can't use in erev. The achas tahira, which you could use as an erev. So one you could and one you can't. The Omru, when he says, Irvuli b'tahira b'chol makam shehi. I got 2 right there, correct? Whichever one is the tar one, it should work. And we by now know by erev, you don't have to be able to eat it, right? By erev, you don't have to be able to eat it. Even, we said yesterday, even if it's burnt, as long as it wasn't there, or a gal fell on it, as long as it was there, ben hashmasha. So here's the question. Is this a good erev or not? I got 2 loaves of bread. One of them, zicha, is good. Can you go ahead and say what? Penny, shake your head to make sure. I want to. Penny, is that a picture of you or is that really you? It's a picture of Penny. It's the best one. Is that Penny?
It's a picture. It's a
picture, right?
Yeah.
You can't believe this. Tell me this is not great. Steve Geller. Steve Geller, he looks scary. He looks fake. But look at Penny. Does he look real?
Yeah.
You couldn't tell it's Penny.
That's great.
Yeah.
But it's a picture from last year.
Hey, Penny! Penny, I'm telling you, you can't. I'm wondering, I never saw you so attentive for so long. I knew it could be real.
But if you want to have a real picture, sometimes we'll have a phone in this.
Hey, Penny, you need a picture with a phone. You can't hear. You have to mute yourself.
Why? What's going on?
What's going on?
We have a share going on.
I'm aware.
Okay, very good.
We're negotiating with the Ukrainians.
You're negotiating with the Ukrainians. Okay, anyway. Says the Gemara. So you hear the Shaila, guys. You have 2 loaves of truma. You have 2 loaves of truma in front of you. One is tamei and one is tahar. And now you said, whichever one is the tahar one should be the erev. What would you think? What would you say over here? What would you say? Good or not? Let's have a vote. How many people think it's a good erev? Show me, give me a thumb up. What, you think it's good? Nish, you don't think it's good? Okay, it's not good. You know why? We have a rule. Anything you can't eat miboy yoim is not going to go to erev. Since you couldn't eat this al safek, you don't know which one it is. It's not a good erev. Says the Gemara. Tibayla Reb Meir, Tibayla Reb Yosi. Tibayla Reb Meir. I can't like Reb Meir Hasam the leka tahira. There's no tahara, but hacha ik tahira maybe it's good erev. I do my feel Reb Yosi like Hama that it's tahar that it's good erev ela hasam. The Isa the he tahira yadala because if it's tahira he knows it's tar. Aval hacha hala yadala he doesn't know which one it is. So Amalei so he told him. Ben Reb Yosi, Ben Reb Meir, be'inin suda haruyim mibayayim. You need a suda that's right to eat on a Friday in order to be an erev. Veleka, since the kohen couldn't eat this because he can't be nippless into a suffix, maybe he's eating truma tameya, which is misa b'dei shemayim. Therefore, it's not a good erev. Very fascinating. Nunakuda. Another shaila. Boy minei Rav and Rav Nachman. Kikazu hayoim choil ulamacha kodesh. It's Friday. All of Friday, it's going to be choil. Tomorrow Shabbos, it's going to be kodesh. Choil I could use as an erev. Kodesh I can't use as an erev. For Omar, irvuli bezeh. This should be what? This should be an erev. So mahu. Amalei, Eruvin erev. It's a good erev. He says it's a good erev.
Like being burnt up.
Now, hayom kodesh ulamacha choil. Today it's Friday. It's kodesh, and tomorrow it's choil. Rashi says the kedusha should be chal on money. In other words, puts back according to Rashi, you have some money and say the kedusha when as soon as it turns Shabbos, the kedusha of this kika should now be chal on the money. Good. For Amru Ivru li bezeh mahu amalei ein Eruvin erev. So chal to kodesh, it's a good erev. Kodesh to chal, it's not. Maishna amalei. So Rav Nachman told me, go ahead and wait for me a kur of melach. It's a common term. I guess it was a funny term in those times. But he answered anyway. Hayom chol l'macha kodesh misveika lo'noch delay kedusha. Now, the previous chazaka is one of chayil, correct? It's chayil. Hayom chayil. The previous chazaka is one of chayil, and that's still in effect. And just because the suffix arises bein hashmashos, we still go ahead and use a chazaka to determine the halacha. Friday afternoon, it was chayil. Friday bein hashmashos, I don't know, because that's a suffix, correct? But what does the chazaka say? The chazaka says it's good. What about kodesh? It's the opposite. By kodesh, it's the opposite. The chazaka says what? It's no good. That's the difference between the two. Geschmack? Very geschmack. Okay. Says the Gemara. Hayom kodesh l'macha choyel misveika le'paka le'kedusha. Al safik, we won't say the kedusha goes off minay from it. Now, you have a wooden pitcher, and the wooden pitcher you put in a mikvah, and it's going to be tar in the evening. It's called full yoim. You put it in the mikvah, it's going to be tar in the evening. It's called what? It's called a full yoim. Okay. So what happens? Why am I losing people? People leaving me. Where are they going? I took a shower.
There was bad signal for a little while. I don't know, something happened.
Okay. Yes, it's Steve. Got Steve Geller with that glare. Okay. Yeah. Piazza, yeah, the piazza. Okay. I have a wooden kli, guys. This wooden kli, I like you live better. The piazza look makes me scared. And Avrami Weinberg was showing me every few minutes. Avrami Weinberg changes the menu. We went from the Impossible Burger. Now we have veggies. I don't know what he has. Oh, his bread, his sourdough bread. I don't know.
It's the 2 loaves of bread. Well, come on, Gemara.
It's an Erev. Okay. 2 loaves of bread. Which one is Torah? Which one's Tameh? Don't answer. Anyway, so you have over here. You have it's full yoim. It's a kli that is a din of its full yoim. Now, fellas, listen to this. If truma would touch it, it would be tamei. But in tevel, the truma is not separated yet. So Maisa Rishon, you have to separate from Maisa Rishon. The Levi's got to separate Trumas Maisa and give to the Kohen. He didn't separate it yet. Listen to what he says. Very interesting. Tan Hasan, a mission full yoim. Login full yoim, a metal, not a metal, a wooden kli that's its full yoim. Shemolim in a chavya shel Maisa, tevel. You fill it up with Maisa Rishon wine. But the Maisa Rishon, as of yet, you didn't take off the Trumas Maisa. Now you're not able to eat this. Trumas Maisa Tevel is Misa B'dei Shemayim. Trumas Maisa is like Truma G'dayla. So therefore, however, in its state of Tevel, guys, it does not go ahead and contract Tumah. In its state of Tevel, it doesn't contract Tumah. If it was Mamish Lebedika, Trumas Maisa, it would contract Tumah. But it doesn't. Now, for Omar, and he says the following. Harizeh Trumas Maisa, L'chashetech. This should be Trumas Maisa when it gets dark. So what's the halacha full yarn, guys? You wait to Erev Shemesh. As soon as the Shemesh sets, what's going to be the din in the Kli? It's going to be Tahar. And what's going to happen simultaneously? the Trumas Mice will come into existence. Tahor, right? It's not Tomei, very Geshmak. However, V'im Omar Eruvali Bezeh, if he says, this should be my Erev, now, Lo Yama Klum. He doesn't say anything. Lo Yama Klum, he doesn't say anything. Why? So Amarava, Zoyse Meres, Seif Hayoim, Koine Erev. Seif Hayoim, which means the beginning of the night. And Ben Hashmashais, the Seif Hayoim, it's not dark yet, so what is it? It's still Tevel. Since it's still Tevel, you can't use it as an Erev. Good? So therefore, Zoyse Meres, Seif Hayoim, Koine Erev, Amid Beis. The Isal Gedaitach Tchilas Hayom Koina, because if you're going to say the end of Bein Hashmashis, which is the beginning of nighttime, then the Isal Gedaitach Tchilas Hayom Koina, Erev, Iyama Erev Li Bezeh, Amay Lo Yom Klum. It should be a good Erev. Because at that point in time, in other words, at that Bein Hashmashis, we look, the beginning of Bein Hashmashis is Friday, the end of Bein Hashmashis is Shabbos. Good? So,
Why is that called
Tchilas of Shabbos is the beginning. By here, we begin the night before. That's a very geschmack. So therefore, you'd say that what? It should be what? It should be good. He says the Gemara, Amar Papa, I feel Tamet Tchilas Yom Koina Eruv. Even you could say the beginning of the day, Shabbos Koina Eruv, you still could not go ahead and use it as an Eruv. Why? Same story we said before. You need a Suda that you could have eaten during the day. And during the day was Tevel, you couldn't eat it. So Mamela, even if Nechet Timsa of the Chalois of Trumas Meiser and Erev would happen simultaneously, it doesn't work vis-a-vis Erev because you couldn't eat it on Friday. Okay, the next sugya is the most famous sugya for Mendel Hagar. We have a guy in Hashem, Mendel Hagar, who's been there for many, many, many years, right? He's a Kohen. He came to Duchen for me once in 25 years, 28 years, 25 years. He came one time to Duchen, so we know he's a Kohen. Or else he was Mivatel Mitzvah, but we say he's a Kohen. And his favorite sugya is Breira. His favorite sugya in Shas is Breira. And one of the sugyas, this is one of the more famous sugya of Breira in Shas, and the shaila of Breira is this, guys. Breira is retroactive clarity. In other words, I say something now, but it'll only become clear later on retroactively what I meant. So, for example, I got two wives, and they both have the same name. And I tell the cipher, it has to be written Lishma, write a get for, my wife's name is Harriet, write a get for Harriet. Which Harriet? Whichever one walks in the door. It's not a good get. If you say Breira, it's a good get. If you say Ein Breira, it's not a good get. If you say Breira, it becomes Huvra Hadaval Mafreya. It becomes clear retroactively. This get was written for that one that walked in the door. If you say Breira. If you say Ein Breira, then we say no. It can't be that. So what's the shaila over here? I'm going to set up two separate Erev Tchumen in two separate directions. Now, we know the way Erev Tchumen works is, right now I'm standing in the middle of the Zoom screen. I got 2,000 amas in this direction and 2,000 amas in this direction. If I set up my Erev Tchumen over here, I lose the 2,000 over there, and I extend 4,000 in this direction, or vice versa. So now, I set up my Erev Ben Hashmashis, and I say, on Shabbos, whichever way I go, that's the one that was my Erev. So if you say Yesh Breira, it comes out retroactively that what? That which one, it was kind of whichever one I go in, retroactively, that was the one that was kind of Ben Hashmashis. And even though in many cases we don't say Breira, by Eruvin we do say Breira. By Eruvin we do say Breira. And this is the sugya, and this is the Mishnah we're going to introduce now.
Breira is a bunch of everything. You don't need kavanah.
No, my kavanah is a kavanah, but it only becomes clear what the kavanah was after.
When you told the cipher, write again.
Right.
You didn't have in mind which way.
Yeah, I had whichever one it's going to be for, that's my kavanah.
That's not a question.
Ask me. Nothing. It's nothing.
Breira it
It's
is.
no, it's nothing. I just want to
The-
talk to you.
So if you're going to say
I told
Breira,
you, it's nothing.
that's the kavanah I had for this one. That's what Breira states.
The kavanah.
You need the shema. Really, the word you're looking for by get is the shema. You need b'chasav la safe, b'chasav la. You need the shema. So therefore, the shema over here would be, again, if you say Breira, that's the shema. Okay. Anyway, this is the introduction. It's a very geshmak sugya. Very geshmak. Says the Mishnah. Masna adam al eruvai v'omer. A person can go ahead and conditionally say on his Erev, Oimer, Im Ba'u Nachrim min HaMizrach, if the Nachrim come from the Mizrach, Eruvay L'Mayriv, the Erev is L'Mayriv, min HaMayriv, if the Nachrim come from the Mayriv, Eruv L'Mizrach. Now, this isn't an invading army that you're running for your life, because if you're running for your life, you got a lot more to worry about than Erev Tchumim. Guys, it's speaking about the tax collector. So I guess you could be running for your life. The IRS is coming, so that you want to avoid the IRS. So if the IRS comes from the east, I'm going to make my Erev to the west. And if they come from the west, I'm going to make it to the east. In Boy Lakan Ulakan, now if they come whichever direction they come in, to the place I want to, I will go. Loy Bo, if they don't come, Loy Lakan, Loy Lakan, Hareni Kabinei Iri, then I want to have no Erev. And I'm then just limited to 2,000 in both directions, like a person in my city. So I'm leaving myself options. Now, it's the same case without money, but Torah involvement. We want to get both. We want to get the Litvisha and the Chasidisha. And Chacham min Mizrach, if the Chacham comes from the east, then Eruvin L'Mizrach, my Erev is to the Mizrach. Min Mayriv, if the Chacham comes from the Mayriv, Eruvin L'Mayriv. Bal L'Kan L'Kan, if the Chacham comes in either direction, L'Makam She'eretz Eilech, I'll go whichever one I want. Loy L'Kan V'Loy L'Kan, and if it's what? If it's in either direction, Hareini Kibinei Yiri, then what? Then I have no, then I didn't lose anything. Again, if I do set an Erev, I lose it, right? And if it's no, in other words, I'm saying either there is an Erev, there's not an Erev. Either it's in this direction or not the Erev. In other words, this is all Breira. This all is dependent upon other factors. Guys coming, not coming, directionally where they're coming, and I'm able to set it. It's an unbelievable idea. Says Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Im Hayechem Rabbi, you should be aware, if one of them is his Rabbi, in other words, there's two Chacham coming. One's coming from the west and one's coming from the east. If it's his Rabbi, you could be...
What? We need to talk about this.
What's this?
You know what? Mommy said she wanted darkeners, right?
Okay. Why all of a sudden the guys seem more interested in that conversation than me? All of a sudden the guys are busy with that. Okay. So what did Mommy say? Guys, you hear? If his Rebbe, according to Rabbi Yehuda, if there's a factor to figure out that really, let's say he has, I don't know, let's say from the east comes a regular guy, and from the west, a regular Talmud Chacham, a regular guy. But this Rebbe is coming from the east. It's a mistaba that he wanted to be kind of in the east and not the west. And the Chacham say sometimes the guy prefers his chaver over his Rebbe. So therefore, a filu of its Rebbe, still he can be kind of any direction he wants.
That's not regular with the Rebbe. Because he wants his Rebbe. Unlike the other ones, wherever
Hesh.
that's where I am.
Hesh. A chacham's coming from the east, a chacham's coming from the west. I say which direction I go in, that's where I want the Erev to be. Says Rabbi Yehuda, if one of the chachamim is his Rebbe, it's mistaba that that's the one. Says the chachamim, no, I disagree. Sometimes it's still breira. It's totally breira. And both chachamim, so Rabbi Yehuda, hoy echem em rabbi, hoy lechetzel rabbi, hoy shnei rabbi sav l'mokum sheyertze yelech. That is okay. So now this is all a shailawat of what we call breira. Kiyas Reb Yitzchak Toni Ipcha. He went ahead and he had a mission that said the opposite. You're running towards the Rebbe, right? And not running away from, and you're going towards the goy. Rashi says, Toni Ipcha, I see masnisim biyadei, Toni Ipcha, Bayreach min hachacham, umasna im bo chacham lemizrach eruvay lemayrev. He's running away. The lesser Nachri likna eruvay. Wherever sad the Nachri is coming, he should go. So, just logistically, it's not a shaila. In both cases, it's breira, right? But it's just different. One is running away from the Rebbe, and the other is running towards the guy. So what's pshat? Kiyas Reb Yitzchak Tani Ivcha. Kulam asnisin kasha. Nachrim anachrim kasha chacham achacham. Says Nachrim like kasha. Ha bipargavna, ha b'morid demasa. If it's the tax collector, he's running away. If it's the head honcho of the city, he's running towards him to give him cover and kind of go get on his good side. However, what is Rebbe? Chacham achacham lekasha, musei perki, mikri shami. One is speaking what is who teaches perik, he teaches Torah, and the other one is a teacher of kiddies. Let's see Rashi on that last point. Moisev Pirki lidroish berabim dasa adam leilach lishmaya. He wants to dasa rabim. It's a good darshan. It's a yisachar friend. Someone's coming along, right? And the other direction is Uncle Moshe. So therefore, mikri shma kloima malamdik tenoikis lispalel umaslisin the Rav Yitzchak with the asu beitrei chad lahagisa v'chad lahagisa umaslisan at the Moisef Pirkei Koi. Our Mishnah is speaking mat where there's a Talmud Chacham Bachi Kamar. Boom Moisef Pirkei leMizrach oy balakan lakan the Shavayim Masivi Pirkei the all what of tremendous darshanim the Makam Sheretz Elech wherever I want I'll go. Uluchshayiv loy lemachar keyword. Uluchshayiv loy lemachar when I decide tomorrow. Amina we say guys hovra hadavra it becomes clear. The b'shas knias erev. At the time he was kind as Erev ben Hashmashis, the Taitei Ahu Chacham, his das was not Chacham Have. With Rabbi Yitzchak Koi, a Mikri Shama. Rabbi Yitzchak says you're running away, speaking about a Mikri Shama, Brachi Kama. But a Mikri Shama, Lemizrach, Eruvin, at the Moisef Pirkei L'Mayre. If there's a Mikri Shama one direction, and a guy, a darshan in the other direction, you're going to go towards the darshan and run away from the what? The Mikri Shama. Okay, we'll stop over here because it fits in tomorrow. It flows right in. Shkaya for listening, everybody.
Good words, Rabbi.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
listening.
I'll